Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Odyssey of Foundation for the next 2 days. A little bit about myself. My name is Dan Grennan. I'm a technical pre-sales consultant here at Oracle. I've been with the company about just over 2 years. Yeah, and prior existence to that I would have been working in the software IT industry for about 16 years. So I worked prior to this for a company called IBM, who I'm sure you're all very familiar with. So I worked for IBM in the United States and Australia. I would have been a field technical consultant for IBM in Australia. I would have worked, let's say, in support and, let's say, field support in America also. What we're going to be talking about today for the next 2 days is we're going to be talking about Oracle's acquisition of Sun, what it meant to Oracle, where's the direction, why did they acquire Sun? Well, I suppose there's a few reasons. Potentially one of them could be there seems to have been a lot of, let's say, consolidation in the hardware software industry in the last, let's say, 10 years, whereas opposed to, let's say, 15 years ago, the big cost driving factor was the price of hardware. Now, because of economies of scale, because of advances in technology, the price of hardware is obviously plummeted, so it's become increasingly, let's say, advantageous for software companies to acquire their own hardware, because people like IBM have been selling what's called the full stack for 20 odd years, okay? So in other words, IBM's, let's say, I think Oracle's, Freudian slip, but Oracle's strategy is that they've seen IBM out there basically ruling the roost in the marketplace for the last 30 odd years, okay? And they say, right, we have our own, let's say, hardware division now. Now we can go toe to toe up against IBM in each area that IBM is conducting its business, okay? That's, let's say, one of the strategies would be. So what else was?
Sorry, can I just ask you something? I wasn't aware of the full stack for IBM. How do they sell full stack? Because I know they have the database, they have the hardware, but I'm not sure about the application.
Oh, they have the application layer for sure. Oh, huge. WebSphere. So if you look at WebLogic, WebSphere.
Yeah.
Okay. You look at Oracle Database, they've got DB2. Okay. You look at, let's say, JD Edwards, or they've got enterprise content management, they've got CRM systems, they've got the whole shebang.
They have got a lot of partners.
And
I mean, maybe in the Middle East it wasn't like well known, because I didn't hear a lot of IBM's application in the Middle East. I'm not sure, of course, about outside the Middle East. So this one
IBM is so big, right? They wouldn't actually, in some cases, IBM deals are so big, they give the customer the hardware. The hardware is inconsequential. If you've got a $20 million deal, it's not about the, if you've got a $20 million implementation, the hardware is negligible when you're talking about the software licenses and hardware licenses, okay? So pretty much what we're going to talk about, I mean, are you guys all, let's talk quickly some terminology before we launch into it. Let's say things like high availability. You guys know what an operating system is? So if I was to ask you, what's IBM's flagship operating system on a Unix-based?
AIX.
Cool, everybody knows it. What would HP's be? Hewlett Packard's?
HPX.
Great, that's cool, so I don't have to go into this. Okay, very quickly then, let's say this is just some of the basics, so if you want to talk, let's say, a history of operating systems, history of, let's say, computing in the 20th century, this is a quick 5-minute blurb, right? So obviously during World War II, we had, let's say, code crunchers in, let's say, Bletchley Park in the UK. Basically, they developed, let's say, systems and, let's say, systems to break codes and things like this, but they were big, they were huge, they were the size of half this building, okay? But then through these, let's say, progressions through the 50s and 60s, all of a sudden this sort of technology started to become commercialized. And people like AT&T, Bell Laboratories, some of the universities in the United States started developing, let's say, the machine code. Let's say bring the machine code one step further. All of a sudden, a thing called Unix arrived. Okay, so Unix would be an operating. Unix is basically, I don't even know what it stands for. It's an acronym for a type of computer language. Because basically, what was happening was that the silicon and the chip technology, okay, and with Intel's innovations, it was becoming more and more, let's say, price competitive, or it was becoming much cheaper to let's say, do high-end computing, especially in universities. So moved from government into universities, and also commercial companies like IBM started, AT&T, Bell Laboratories started using it for their telephone exchanges. And thus, let's say, out of the late 60s grew this thing called Unix, okay? Then let's say IBM commercialized it and their version would have been AIX. Hewlett-Packard commercialized it and their version was called HPUX, okay? So this would be, let's say, the nerve center of how a Unix server runs, okay? And then let's say Cray Computers, which would have been Sun's predecessor in a different area, Sun Microsystems, developed another branch of Unix called Solaris, okay? So that's, let's say, that would be early to mid 70s. Then we're heading towards, let's say, late 70s, Intel come out and start producing chips. So now all of a sudden, hobbyists and enthusiasts and small entrepreneurs can, let's say, start, let's say, harnessing the power of this thing called an operating system. And it became, let's say, commercially viable. So by, let's say, 1979, 1980, 1981, 82, people at home or small businesses started getting in and using this operating system. And then especially with the, let's say, the leaps in technology that Intel were providing, people could, let's say, literally have this at home for $2,000 US, okay? So then obviously we had Microsoft. Basically Microsoft turned around to IBM and IBM started producing commercial computers for the home use, and Microsoft turned around and said, well, we have this thing called DOS. Why don't we put this on our PCs for your home use, and we license it to you? And of course, IBM didn't see what was happening. IBM's probably one of the biggest mistakes in the last 20, 30, 40 years. So what happened next? By 1995, every, 95, 99, well, probably more than 99% of all PCs being shipped were on Windows. Then the next great leap in the operating system, let's say, the operating system world was, all of a sudden there's a guy called Linus Torvalds. He's a Finnish guy, bit of a computer engineer, and he's sitting there in Finland going, I really like Unix. I really like the fact that it's very, very secure. I don't like the fact that Microsoft have got complete hegemony in the operating system world. I want something that I can use in my PC that is not Microsoft, but is very Unix-like. So of course, what does he do? Clappity, clappity, clappity. He goes off and develops a thing called Linux, okay? So what is Linux? Linux is like a Unix-based operating system, except it runs on an x86 chipset, okay? So when we talk about HPUX, when we talk about AIX, HPUX for Hewlett-Packard, AIX for IBM, Sun Solaris, okay? And then we talk about x86, okay? AIX had its own chip, so they had the proprietary silicon upon which their operating systems resided. HPUX actually, in the last 10 years, used an Intel type chip, a titanium chip, yep. And Microsoft and Linux then used an Intel-based chip to house their operating system on, okay?
I would like to ask one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You said Linux was solely for Intel. Yes, it's been Intel, but correct me if I'm wrong, and this is what I've heard from customers. Sun in the past used to provide Spark machines with Linux operating systems.
We do. We're going to get into that. We still do.
You still do? Spark with Intel?
Spark, it's Solaris for x86. We're going to be talking about that.
He's looking Linux on Spark.
Linux operating system on a Spark machine used to be provided in the
Quite
legacy
possible. Quite
And
possible.
Oracle
AMD.
stopped that. Oracle made it Solaris on Spark.
Well, you see, I tell you, I think that was in the mid 2000s. We provided two companies. Our operating system would install on two companies' chipsets, Intel and AMD.
Yes.
Now, I think the Linux and Solaris worked on the AMD chipset. Yeah.
Linux worked on Spark also. That was what I heard.
So that's pretty much where that came from. So, so in the course of this, so that's pretty much a very, very brief, quick introduction into computing. So for your x86 chip, for your Intel chip, you have a thing called Linux, okay? Now all of a sudden out there, you might hear of like SUSE, you might hear of Red Hat, you might hear of Ubuntu, you've got all these different flavors. It's like Fruit, Fedora, whatever, okay? I mean, Ubuntu. Yeah, Ubuntu. We've got all sorts of different flavors of Linux now. Okay, so pretty much that's where computing is today. And basically, we've brought out, for instance, in the next few weeks, we're going to be bringing out a T5 chipset, and that's on a new T5 chip, which has been developed by us in conjunction with Fujitsu, as far as I know. But I've got to check that. Maybe not. It could be proprietary to us, but Fujitsu is one of our partners in developing that. Okay. Indeed, indeed. Yeah. So I'll just go back to the agenda. We'll have a quick look at it. So we're going to be switching around this agenda because this agenda was done quite a number of about 2 years ago. So what are we going to cover anyway for the agenda? We're going to look at our x86 family. Okay. So we're going to look at let's say the product architecture, competitive landscape. We're going to talk about product positioning for the x86. That's number one. Number two, we're going to go into the T series. And at the moment, we've got concurrently running 2 different types of T servers. We have the T4 and the T5. Okay? The last one would have been the T3. Before that was the T2. Then we had E series, V series, all sorts of different servers. Okay? This would be Unix. Okay? This would be x86 plus Solaris for x86. I really wanted to confuse you, but we do provide Solaris, a version of Solaris to work on the x86 chip. Okay. Next one, we're going to talk about M series. However, they've just brought out a new M product. Hasn't been even officially announced, but there's stuff out there already. Some of this will be legacy. Okay. I'll cover it quickly because this is scheduled like nearly for an hour and a half. It's an hour and a half. I prefer to, let's say, devote to other topics. Okay. Then we're going to talk about engineered systems either today or tomorrow. We've got a thing called ODA. Who had the ODA presentation from Tammy Bednar? You didn't. Well, I'm going to go through it again because I've been told this is what I got to do, and for purposes of this video, unfortunately, it might be boring, but that's the way it's going to be. Okay, sorry, but I'll try and go through it a bit quicker. Q&A, and then what's not in here is the Zygo, and other bits and pieces. Also, there's an important thing on it at 11:30 today. Okay. Which is the upsell wheel, which you guys working in sales are going to need to know about because it's actually a very valuable tool to get intelligence on your customer's current estate. Okay. So tomorrow we're going to look at the 2500, which is our storage. Tomorrow will be our storage day. So we're going to talk about 2500. We're going to talk about Pillar, which was another recent acquisition. Okay. We're going to talk about SAN and NAS storage. We're going to talk about tiered storage. We're going to talk about the differences between. Would you guys be familiar with SAN and NAS? Okay. Now the thing about with everybody, some people didn't nod there, so I'm assuming we might have to go through do a quick, let's say, what is a NAS, what is a SAN, how does it work? But there's one thing to be remembered now with these sort of storage products is that people are using the word NAS and SAN kind of interchangeably because both of them are intelligent. Both of them can do the function of each other. Okay. I'm going to talk about tiered levels of storage. Why is storage important? We're going to touch, let's say, probably about engineered systems and storage and how it all fits together in data centers and stuff. And then I'm going to quickly go through tape with you guys. At the moment, for the purposes of Oracle Direct, as far as I'm aware, I mean, an SL3000 would come in way above cutoff. We have basically 3 tape products now. We've got a few more, but for the purposes of Oracle Direct, we've got an SL150, we've got an SL3000, SL850, so 8500. Pardon?
8500.
8500, yeah. Did I say 8500?
850.
No, I said 850. Okay. Sorry, I missed the 0. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. Any questions? Any comments?
It would be great if you can, whenever you talk about a product, just give us the name of our competition for those.
Sure. If I know.
Yeah, if you know, a little bit about them. I mean, we don't have to get in detail, but at least give us a name.
Well, what we do is we get into competitive landscape, so so we'll do that. Okay, so first and foremost, what we're going to talk about is my Actually, I'm going to have to turn this a bit around because I don't have a zapper. And obviously I'm going to be stepping forward. So, let's go back, okay. So x86, the product, what is it? Now I gave you a brief introduction to the x86 beforehand. What would you guys know is an x86 machine? Okay. What's the fundamental thing about an x86? What's the thing about it? There's obviously two chipsets can be an Intel or AMD currently, correct? Yeah. Okay. Pretty much what is it based on? Loosely, rough translations based on the reason it came to prominence is because of Microsoft and Microsoft's DOS operating system. Okay? And basically the things that run on an x86 would be Microsoft Windows, all sorts of Windows programs, all sorts of Linux variants, and that's pretty much it. Okay? And obviously Solaris for x86. So we just talked about what the x86 is. For our agenda here, we're going to go talk about the type of service. We're going to briefly go into the components. We're going to go into some important concepts, x86 portfolio, and we talk about some references, okay? So where does it come from? The term x86 refers to an architecture based on the Intel 8086 CPU, Central Processing Unit. Okay, Central Processing Unit is the hardware within a computer system which carries out the instructions of a computer program. I would say, you could also say it's the nerve center of a server or a computer or a desktop, or these days it's the nerve center of one of these. This has also got a chipset in it. It's not an x86 chipset. You've got a smartphone, you've got a tablet. So there's a myriad now out there of, let's say, producers of this chipset, so it's not necessarily just Intel, okay?
You mean the chipset, you're talking about chipset itself or the x86 type chip?
No, no.
Oh, just general chip, you know, so it's not, I'm not saying there's an x86 in here.
Do you know why the name is 8086?
You know, it might just...
Is there a point of behind the name itself?
It's like when I'm doing a revision of a document, it's document 2.1, 2.2, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seriously,
I believe it is based on the microprocessors, you know, the microprocessors.
the amount of them that are inside
No,
How many pins maybe they have?
could be as something as
No,
be-
I'm just...
because before it was 386, 486, then you just said okay, 86. It used to be 286, 386.
386, 486, 586, 886, I think.
I'm not going to argue with you guys on it because I got to move on.
This is what later came as to be the Pentium 1, Pentium 2, Pentium 3.
Yeah, that's where the iteration where this stuff came from. So basically, what sort of type of service have we got? Okay, here's actually a quick introduction into the Oracle stack. When we talk about the stack, I'll be talking about this. You'll be hearing an awful lot about it. They love to talk about their stack. Okay, and for instance, a physical computer dedicated to run one or more services to serve the needs of other computers. What for instance could you have on it? For purposes of here, we've got a database, file server, a name server, print server, proxy server, web server. Name server could be, let's say, for authentication purposes, for whatever, okay? Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's known as LDAP, L-D-A-P. So if a customer rings you and says, I need an LDAP server, they're talking about the way their users authenticate to connect to the network, okay? What's the components of a computer? This is good because you guys have got some experience in this. When I've been doing this in the past, sometimes we get some quite challenging questions from people who've, let's say, not been introduced to the hardware world, or if it's their first introduction to it. So pretty much, I would say, Michael Dell would have been one of the persons who made this an everyday appliance for people. Because basically he saw with the gains in processing power, the innovations in technology, plus the drop in prices, that through, let's say, the use of, let's say, economies of scale, he could start producing computers very, very cheaply for the mass market. Basically what he saw is, okay, I can go to Seagate for my hard drive. I can go to Intel for my CPU. I can go to Philips, maybe Philips, Samsung, whoever does memory. Go him from a memory. Network card, Cisco. Power supply, whoever does power supplies. I can then, let's say, get somebody put a motherboard, put them all together, give Microsoft a call, and happy days, here we have a computer. Okay? So basically, you kind of mechanize the production facilities for the IT world, made it very, very cheap. And obviously, after Dell was, let's say, the forerunner, then you've got, let's say, HP jumped on board, IBM are doing it. Now all of a sudden you've got people in the Middle East, I'm not reading the Middle East, but more, let's say, in Asia, like Huawei, I think that's how you pronounce them. You've got Lenovo, who bought IBM's personal computing division. Okay, so you've got all these, say, new people to the market. So hence, let's say, dropping prices, and I'd say it's a bit of a change in the way, let's say, the computer world is running.
There's in fact a Chinese brand called Packard Bell.
Packard Bell, Chinese. Okay. So it's not Hewlett Packard, it's obviously an offshoot. Okay.
It's not a offshoot, that's just
There's another
rhyming
one
name.
called Woody.
Oh, it's a rhyming name. Oh, very good. Okay.
They're very famous with that.
They have Woody Woodpecker.
All right. Okay. Right, very good.
You'll find that in the white one.
So there's a few important, let's say, there's a few important concepts you guys got to get your head around, but I'm sure you're all aware. For, let's say, computer components, when, let's say, we are commercializing it, when we're using it in a business sense, it's very important we have a thing called hot swappability, and we can hot plug these. What does that mean? That means, let's say, the ability to replace components within this without a significant interruption to your day-to-day business. Okay? And the idea of it, let's say, hot plugging is, let's say, the ability of you to expand capacity on the fly without significant interruption to your business. Fairly simple, okay? Fairly straightforward.
So hot swapping is used in terms of support or issues, problems, and hot plugging is used to upgrade.
Good analogy, but I would say that, let's say, hot swapping,
Hot plugin involves hot
It doesn't
swapping.
depend, it doesn't matter why you're doing it.
just, yeah.
It,
Basically.
Could be support, could be upscaling.
Well, for instance, hot swapping could be,
Swapping is replacing.
hard disk is broken, yeah? Okay. All of a sudden, for instance, we're going to be talking about the Oracle database appliance. One functionality of the database part with the disk is that, let's say, if it registers a broken disk or a failed disk, okay, it can automatically log a support ticket. The engineer checks the support ticket and goes, wow, we have a failure here, okay? What it will do is it will say, okay, it will send the person a message, an email saying you have a disk failure. The disk is in the post, or it's been sent by UPS. So what you do is you turn around and you tell the system, right, I'm putting in that disk, push out the disk, put the other one in. The systematically will automatically, if it's an ODA device, will automatically mount the disk and realign the disk array, okay? That's, for instance, one of the examples of how it works, okay? Why do we need that? High availability, mission critical systems. If you have your e-business system running on an ODA machine and you've got, let's say, 200,000 people connecting, let's say, every day, let's say you might have 50,000, 20,000 concurrent users. What is it to your business if you're down for half an hour, okay?
Yeah.
So that's a component. That's another thing we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about high availability, business continuity. We're going to talk about disaster recovery. These are all concepts that you guys are going to have to come to terms with, and concepts that you guys are going to be talking in your day-to-day routines with your customers.
We should have one more word here, high supply.
Well, I wouldn't. I'm not in the business of creating words here, but whatever. So when we're talking about, let's say, Oracle systems, and we want to talk about, the full family, okay? The full family of systems. What have we got, okay? From an x86 point of view, remember we have two, let's say, divisions here. We've got our x86, and we've got our own proprietary chip technology. So here on the business ready to deploy, off you go, plug it in, bit of configuration, boom, you're working. We'd have Exadata, that's the big boy, okay? Exalogic for our web logic applications, Okay, we're all familiar with WebLogic. Okay, competition would be, let's say, IBM's WebSphere. Okay, Spark Supercluster. So this would be obviously for web applications. Exadata for your database. Spark Supercluster could be for, let's say, random information or random content. Okay, you don't need a database with a lot of capacity. You don't need a web server with a lot of capacity, but you need a machine with a lot of capacity. Okay? So then here we have Oracle Exalytics. This is for it's an in-memory database machine. Who would use an Exalytics machine would be your high-frequency traders.
Is it like business intelligence?
Hedge funds, high-frequency, business intelligence, yes. If you need to crunch an awful lot of numbers, yeah, exactly, high-frequency trading. If you need to crunch an awful lot of numbers very, very quickly, that's your boy. Or potentially that's your boy too. We'll come and talk about Exadata and we'll talk about, and then all of a sudden, a few years ago, Oracle turned around and said, we'll be talking about the ODA. Anyway, just not all of you had the ODA, but the ODA is, let's say, something which is going to be a focus for you guys because of the model and the nature in which Oracle do their business. Okay? So that's that side. And then we got our storage systems. We're missing a bit, for whatever reason, there's some bits and pieces missing from this, but ZFS storage appliance. This is, now we're going to talk about, let's say, rack cabinets. We're going to talk about U's. This is a rack cabinet, okay? We're talking about U's. These are 42U, which means you can get 42 single servers into those, okay? Why is that important? When we get further into, let's say, x86, I'll show you. But basically, the U is the size of a pizza box. So you can stack these up 42 pizza boxes. So when we talk about data centers, you see a load of these cabinets, okay? And you see, let's say, rooms. Sometimes, if we have time, we can, let's say, Google do a very good, have a look at our data center video, we can watch it. But unfortunately, for the purposes of, let's say, Foundation, we don't do a walkthrough in one of the labs here. I'd like to do it. It's boring for me because I've spent many hours in one of these rooms. Yeah. But it's interesting for you. And then on our smaller side, let's say for the smaller to medium business, we've got the x86 systems, okay? So we'll be going into, let's say, the different let's say, aspects of this. And basically what do these all run on? Red Hat Linux, which is also, I'll come back to that. We got Oracle, so Microsoft, we got VMware. That's some sort of a Linux variant of a.
Don't we say that we are supporting almost all the versions of Linux, all the flavors of Linux?
Yes, for sure. Excuse me. Whatever you want on the machine, we support, insofar as Linux is concerned. Okay. But, for instance, we've got our own enterprise Linux, which is based upon the Red Hat kernel. It's called OEL, Oracle Enterprise Linux. Okay? Unbreakable Linux, yeah. Same thing. So, welcome to the family, guys, on your x86 side of things. Remember I was talking to you about, let's say, a pizza box size? So here's our 1 RU. So remember, one cabinet's going to have 42. Okay? So, we'll talk about blades in a sec. I'll get back to those. So these are the X3-2. The last ones were called X2-2. So this is our most recent addition to the x86 market. Okay? Who do we compete against in this market? We compete against Dell. We compete against HP. We compete against Microsoft. Sorry, not Microsoft. We compete against Cisco now. All of a sudden have started producing x86.
The new box. They're doing some kind of like Exadata machine, but it's very generic. It's not for the. It's called something block.
Yeah, Cisco, and we're going to talk about positioning against the competition and how we position our stuff against the competition. What do we bring to the table? Okay.
Can you just clarify the RU?
RU.
It's a rack unit, right?
Rack unit, yeah. So that's one pizza box, right? But we go back here, right?
Yeah, and so the rack unit is.
Sorry. Oop.
We're finished.
No, that's an idea. We got a good bit more to go. So here's our cabinet. Right? So when I say 1 RU, it's going to take up one slot out of the 42 it can fit. So if it's 2 RU, it's got 2. If it's 3 RU, it's a 3-box system. If it's 4 RU, it'll take up 4 slots. So these come on rails. Slide them in.
Yeah.
So you mount them.
And
Yeah.
slide. It says 2 sockets, 1 RU.
Yeah. You'll have 2 processors on board.
So you cannot add any more units to it. Whereas, for example, in case of the X3-2L, you can expand because you've got 2 rack units.
Yes, you can. And it depends.
When you say 2 sockets, 1 RU, it means I didn't understand.
It's got 2 processors in it. Okay, so it's got 2 sockets, 2 processor sockets in it. Okay, and it takes up 1 RU.
So
Now you can get 4, 6, or 8,
so
depending on how you.
rack unit, 2 sockets.
Yeah, so you can 4, 8, or 6, 4, 8 drive bays. So that'd be, let's say, for the hard disk drives. Okay, and then have slots. So when you're speaking to your customer will be asking, you'll be asking, making the questions. What size hard drives do you want, and how many hard drives? You'll be asking these questions. So this will be the situation where you might need to get your pre-sales guys involved because they'll have that discussion with your customer. Okay?
So for the Stanza X3-2, you have 4 or 8 drives.
Yeah.
Bays.
Yeah.
This is the last.
Drive bays. These are these here. So they won't be populated. So if you only go for 4, you'll have room for expansion. And this is the basic. This is the I think it's with discount it might be about $3,500. So this is your step into the x86 market. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now the thing about I just gotta so then we got the Sun X3-2L. So this is, let's say, a bit bigger again. And then we got X2-4. Where would we use these? So this would be, let's say, for Oracle middleware infrastructure. Okay.
Storage.
Ideal for clustered Oracle databases. This has got a lot more. It's got a lot more oomph than the previous person. This is X3-2L. Then let's say if you want high performance, okay, because you get 8 to 10 CPU cores in here, 4, 6, or 8 here. So if they need the performance and they don't need the capacity, let's say we talk to the customer with an X2-4, okay. And let's say if we want even more power, we have even bigger one. Okay, this one is 5 RU. Okay, so this is, let's say, 8 to 10. Again, 8 drive bays, 8 gigabit ports, and we've got PCI and expansion modes. So this will be memory intensive, virtualization, clusters, Oracle database, okay? And we're talking, let's say, WebLogic, okay? Those are sort of products. So when you're having your conversations with your customers, always ask them, what are you doing? Are you running a database? Are you running middleware? What's the purpose of this conversation I'm having with you? It's very, very important. A lot of reps don't ask the question. A lot of reps don't ask the question, and for all intents and purposes, they're filling in the orders. Okay, and filling in the orders is all well and good, but you might not be servicing the customer's need, but you also might not be, let's say, increasing your selling capacity. Another question: do you need any storage with this? What's your growth? What do you see yourself in 2 years, 10 years? Okay, well, 10 years, hopefully, you'll have swapped out. Because in the IT world, generally, every 5 years, okay? Every 5 years is like the cycle. And then this is the one that I left the last. It's called the Blade. So we have...
1 second. Are you going to go in detail into each of the servers, or are you not?
I might.
I'm just a little curious because it mentioned there 4 or 8 drive bays and here 8.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is do you want me to? Because I have a lot of stuff to cover. So I can, maybe tomorrow afternoon, I'll go into some of it. But let me just get through these slide decks. And,
I was just
you know?
trying to ask, if it doesn't,
Yeah,
then probably...
because this is stuff you can do yourself. If you want to do that sort of, I mean, you go to, let's say, Google it or Oracle, it's all out there. The components, and I will give you some links.
X1, X1, but sometimes this PCI cards and Express model gets confusing. Where is it used or what is it used for?
Okay.
Like those 4 into 10 GB ports. I know there are some cards, but where are they used? I don't
Well, you
know.
see, no, these 8 gigabyte core Ethernet ports, these are onboard ports.
What
These
are
are
they used for?
for network connections. For the network.
LAN cable?
LAN cables. It's literally this cable here.
Okay.
Okay? Cable that you plug in. It's the same thing. Okay. The only difference is this might be 10 gig, or this might only be 1 gig. These are 8 gig. So The standard at the moment that you're going to come across when we're talking about ports and network connectivity, you're talking about 1, 8, 10, or for a thing called with our Exadata is InfiniBand, which is 40. Okay, so those are the sort of parameters when we're talking about gigabit Ethernet ports. That's it. So when it talks about GBE ports, okay, at the back of these, I will show you in the course of this class. They're actually built into the back of the machine. So there's built-in network connectivity with the machine.
So the higher the thing, it is the faster it is, right?
Yes.
So I would say X3-2 is faster than X2-8. Because
X-
it has got 10 gigabits Ethernet and this has got only 8 gigabits.
Yep. Faster network connection, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a faster server. Well, it's just all it is data coming to and from.
Right. So it's going to populate the data.
But hang on for a second. For instance, let's say 8 gig, or where are we going? So for instance here, 410 gig. So you got a 10 gigabit port, but if you've only got a 1 gigabit network connection, it doesn't make any difference.
Of course.
It's
Okay.
up to the
So
4G.
it'll support up to the size of the.
Depending on what
And what is PCI?
The bus.
bus
The bus chip for the motherboard.
Yes.
Bus adapters,
Yeah.
HDDs,
So
it's the data in transit between the CPU
Exactly.
and the memory.
Yes.
And this
So
also
this-
has
this-
to be fast.
This works between the memory, okay? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and the CPU, Central Processing Unit, okay? We don't need to get into this now, because but that's pretty much what that does.
So that's important.
Yeah.
It's nice to understand
Mhm.
also. But just okay, we should be done.
So do we go home now?
Can we go back? Please?
Sure, yeah,
I
we
have
go
a
back.
question for you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. When you say 8 socket 5 RU, this is the level of expandability of the machine. Go to
Oh, I forgot about blades.
on your right side, hand side.
Sorry, yeah.
So when you say 8 socket 5 RU, it means that you can place 5 rack units with 8 socket each. So you have
This is
40
5.
40 CPUs.
This is 5 pizza boxes, right? So it's going to take 5 or you out of a server, out of a rack unit.
Correct.
So now this means that the rack unit is actually a measurement of dimensions, how it fits. Inside
Yes,
the
it's a
rack.
it's a generalized.
So it means the smallest RU you have with the highest sockets, you will have more space to use. More
Exactly.
capacity. That's
So
okay,
if you're
it's a
if
measurement unit.
if your customer is under pressure for space in his data
Then
center,
he has to switch and
Okay. So there is ways and means if a customer turns around to you and says I'm under pressure.
I knew. I just wanted
Okay.
to make sure it's this.
You know,
Because
it's
I
not
gave
how
the
to-
presentation on the rack unit,
Yeah.
and for
Yeah.
a moment I thought I was wrong.
No,
That's fine.
The thing is, you need to calculate it because sometimes you will have
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
sell another rack to the customer.
Yeah,
He
I
doesn't
know.
have, like,
Sometimes the customer
slots
want to
available.
avoid buying the rack actually also.
With the rack, it's nothing.
Yeah, I know. But no, it is if you take space.
No, but
I mean, the more you can use efficiently your space, then you're done.
But what about heating?
We're gonna talk about all that. We're going to talk about. Maybe I'll bring that up.
Within the space means more heating, more electricity.
Right. We're going to actually talk about it. So
It's the same. Instead of renting another space, you'll have more heat, but in the same space. It's only space management.
so guys.
Nothing related to heat.
Okay, what we're going to talk about next is, let's say, x86 positioning and some of the things, some of the conversations that you guys might like to have with your customers. And somebody just mentioned heating. Okay. Now, I was living and working in the United States for about 9 years, and in, let's say, 2000, I remember pulling into a petrol station or gas station, depending where you're from, and I filled up my car, and it cost me 95 cents for a litre of, 95 cents for a gallon, an American gallon, which is about 3.5 litres, okay? Now, I saw yesterday
95
cents, US cents for a gallon in 2000.
Gallon is,
3.5, I think, in American. An American liters, American gallon is about 3.5 litre. So today, here in Dublin, Ireland, it's about 160, it's about 170 euro for a litre. Okay? Now, the point I'm trying to make here is that when a lot of these people are designing, let's say, x86 systems, Unix-based systems, and when they're designing this hardware and they're putting the hardware together, the cost of, let's say, heating, the cost of cooling, the cost of running the server did not come into it, okay? So nobody really cared about, let's say, how expensive it was going to be to run your data center, okay? This has now actually become a huge, huge issue. Because if you think, let's say, we've got all these servers, we've got all these machines running in a room, what else do we need in there? We need cooling, we need lighting. Cooling, what happens if you're, let's say, living in Dubai? Okay, maybe Dubai's not, I think petrol and energy prices are cheap in Dubai. But if you're, for instance, you're living in, let's say, Southern California, if you're, let's say, in Southern Germany, or if you're in Southern Italy, let's say, in the summer, the cost for you to run the air conditioning 7 by 24 by 365, because you can't turn this off because your machine, because the price of energy is affecting you. Obviously, you need your systems up and running. So that's a huge, huge cost. So always when you're having your discussions, so basically what's happened now is that the engineers who've designed, let's say, the Oracle and the Sun hardware have, let's say, taken into account and have made some very, very clever functionality within these machines that say reduce costs. Some of them been denied ergonomically insofar as, let's say, air through a data center will move through them to keep them cooler, which means you need less AC. Some of them got onboard components and some of the more recent innovations, which will basically reduce the power that they need, okay, because they sense that they're not being used. So some of these are self-aware. So always don't forget to have the energy discussion with your customer when you're talking about server updates, data center. And also, this is to lead on to another concept we're going to talk about, is the virtualization, and how virtualization is going to play a major part in that consolidation conversation you're going to have with your customer. Okay?
So is that when we say it's a talking point from our side,
Mm-hmm.
that should also be a conversation point, for example, from IBM side also? Or do we have some advantage over them in our technology, which we can highlight?
Sure, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about total cost of ownership. We're going to talk about where do IBM make their money? We're going to talk about IBM, we're going to talk about HP, we're going to talk about the competition. Very quickly, I'm just going to go through the agenda now, we will get to that. So we're going to talk about Oracle's core strengths, Sun x86 product portfolio, primary x86 sales opportunities, key selling points, and some of the common sales objections you guys will come across, okay? So what's our core strength? We're an enterprise data center focus, okay? We're not really the company that's going to be talking to the single business person, okay? We're talking about small, medium business up to enterprise level. Now remember we talked about the stack earlier on. We design every component in the stack and integrate it with better performance. So from the virtualization level, up to the operating system level, up to the middleware, web logic level, database level, okay? Up to the application, your CRM, your JD Edwards. We design and integrate that with the hardware. It's hardware, software designed to work together. Larry Ellison sits on the board of Apple. He was good friends with Steve Jobs. Hardware, software designed to run together. I was reading the biography of Steve Jobs, and there was a lot of let's say Apple-esque things I've heard from our corporate strategy, okay, in regards the hardware and the software being designed to run together. And what's next? Okay. So what else do we do? What's our strength? We provide advanced levels of system reliability and advanced customer support, okay? So we pride ourselves, let's say, on being dominant historically in enterprise applications, okay? So our CRM, JD Edwards, these sort of well-renowned, worldwide, well-used applications, okay? Another one would be Oracle E-Business Suite, Oracle Financials. These are all the products that we have. We've probably got about 2,000 products out there at this stage, okay? We've $40 billion in the bank, okay? We're a big enterprise. So when I remember somebody mentioned, oh, hang on, how can you compare yourself to IBM? For sure, we're IBM. IBM don't like us because we're now playing in their space, okay? So what else is the attraction of the x86 line is that we offer a complete line from 1U. Remember I said 1U is 42 in a cabinet. So 1U is about the size of a pizza box. Highly optimized specialized database machines to, let's say, our engineered systems, and all targeted for enterprise use. And one other important thing, when the customer says, yeah, well, do you use it yourself? Yes, we do. We've got over 30,000 x86 systems across the globe helping our day-to-day business, our Oracle business. Okay, so we use our own hardware. So we put our money where our mouth is, whereas some companies don't. Okay. So there's one other thing we were talking about where is the industry going. As you've seen recently, let's say with the trouble Dell have had in their recent privatization, a lot of people have kind of gone, what's Dell all about? I mean, we don't see them, just as a hardware vendor, it's not going to work anymore in the market, okay? Because they're fading from the industry, because the industry is evolving into, let's say, vendors who provide a box with a solution, not just a box. Because when you provide the box, all of a sudden you've got to get the solution. The solution might involve, I need a network engineer, I need a database administrator, I need a WebLogic administrator, okay? I need an LDAP specialist. What's LDAP? LDAP is authentication. Authentication means when you log into your system every day. That's LDAP, when you put your password in. But that's not straightforward to configure. I need an email administrator. Has anybody set up Microsoft Exchange recently? It's not straightforward. Pardon?
I thought it disappeared, no?
Well, it disappeared from Oracle, but I was just using it as an example.
It's used most of the places.
Excuse me. Pardon?
It's like most of the customers are using Microsoft Exchange and all that.
Exactly. So, you know, it's not sacrilegious to talk about competitor products here because a lot of competitor products are running on our hardware. Okay? SAP, for instance. Okay? SAP and Sun. SAP and Oracle Sun. It's a favored mix by a lot of customers because the Sun hardware, Oracle Sun hardware is very, very reliable. And if you want your SAP mission critical business system up and running, you go with Sun.
Is SAP using Sun hardware in their
SAP internal? I don't know. I do not know whether SAP use Sun hardware.
No, because in our conversation with SAP, we can use that. These guys, because many customers are now talking about SAP on Microsoft, like, and SAP on HP, for example, those kind of conversations. So if they're using internally Sun, then we can say they're internally using Sun and Oracle database because for sure we know they run on Oracle database.
But you can know, I mean...
Well, see, remember now...
For example, Google runs on the Oracle hardware.
You know how
Hello,
many,
hello.
you know how many...
Oracle database.
Little bit. Majorly.
I'll tell you what, Google does use SL8500s.
Yes.
Remember, Google had an outage there in the UK where everybody couldn't use their mail for, a couple of days there, about maybe 6 months to a year ago. Their only line of recovery was an Oracle tape storage device, an SL8500. So just to recap, hardware vendors are fading as the industry evolves, and we're leading the next wave, providing complete, highly integrated, and easily deployed solutions. What opportunities? When you have your discussions with your customers, what are the things you're going to ask them? Okay? Is the Oracle database, is the Oracle application installed? Okay? And are they running a third-party hardware? So I've got Oracle database. Oh, so what version of database? So I'm on database version 10. So you're updating the database to 11? Yeah. Are you thinking about a hardware refresh? Yes, I'm thinking about a hardware refresh. So why don't you do the hardware refresh when you're doing database upgrade? Because you're going to have to take the database down. There's going to be problems. So that's why it's very important for you guys, when you're selling, to get to know your counterparts in different areas. So if you know who's dealing with this customer for the Fusion middleware, for the WebLogic, for the database, Okay? It's very important for you guys to have those conversations and network and make those connections. So what we're looking at is existing Oracle Solaris users on x86. Okay? They're already using our let's say, operating system. They've gone out, got our operating system, our Sun operating system that's Sun in 2005, recompiled to function on an x86. So they liked Sun so much, they were going to put it on an x86 machine. And they were going to run their applications on it. So why don't we come back to the customer and say, well, you like the software so much, why don't you just try out our hardware on an x86? Okay? So existing Oracle's install base. Yeah, Oracle's hardware install base. You know, remember the 5-year cycle? You know? There was 200,000 customers out there with some bit of Sun kit. Okay? Oracle took over Sun 3 years ago. So remember the install base of the customers. Okay? So we've got enormous amount of people out there, universities. Okay? Build on the goodwill that a lot of people had for Sun back in the day. Sun seemed to be, a lot of, let's say, education institutions liked using Sun hardware. There was a lot of affinity for some people. Let's say the computer graduates, undergraduates, they all used Sun workstations. They all used Sun servers to do their work on. There's a lot of, let's say, goodwill out there. So leverage that goodwill, okay? So what else are we looking for? Existing Red Hat Linux or VM users? VMware. We have a thing called OVM. What's that? Oracle Virtual Machine. Okay? But how much does that cost? What do you mean how much does it cost? Oh, it comes for free. Okay, what do you mean it comes for free? It comes for free. If you want support on it, you will have to pay. Is it comparable in price to VMware? Well, actually, it's probably 1/10 of the price of VMware. Okay? So you've got a customer with a heavy VMware estate. Have a talk with them about using Oracle Virtual Machine. Then the discussion with the customers, what licensing fees are you paying VM for?
Sorry, did you have any idea about if they increased the support for the VMware? Because I heard they increased it already in the States.
Beautiful, VMware. HP partnered with VMware a year and a half ago and say, oh, we got this deal. You buy all our HP servers with VMware. You get it for a year. Beautiful, beautiful deal. Here you go. And VMware turned around a year later and go, oh, by the way, we're going to double the price of your support license. Okay? So that's what you got to tell. You got to hear what VMware did. So somebody's doing his budget. And he's going, okay, I've got 50 virtual machines. My license fee this year is costing, maybe 120,000. Okay, now these are real ballparks. I don't use them. I'm just using them for analogy. All of a sudden, if you've ran it for a year, 120,000, you might factor in, let's say, 3 to 5% increase every year in the license fee, and all of a sudden, oh, you get the letter from you get the email from VMware. Oh, it's going to be 240,000 this year. What's happened to the remainder of your budget that you had that you wanted to get your new servers with because VMware have just doubled the prices like that?
Yeah, they will show money for the next budget.
Oracle has not increased its support cost for so many years.
Oracle has not increased its support costs for so many years, for quite a number of years.
In fact, since we joined, we are almost taking.
No, the support price always is 12% of the hardware sold. Okay?
Yeah, in some cases 10.
No,
And
we
in-
were talking about software, but
In
they have a
general- in
small
general,
inflation
Okay.
cost. They have a small inflation.
Inflation cost is always, but if you look at it, inflation cost has been also standard since last 1 decade.
So that's the discussion we're going to have. The existing Red Hat Linux or VMware users. Why would you say Red Hat Linux? Now, Oracle Enterprise, OEL, Oracle Enterprise Linux, is based on the Red Hat kernel. The Red Hat kernel gets updated and you can download it for free. What you pay Red Hat is for support. Okay? Why would you have Oracle Enterprise Linux on it? Because basically all of a sudden you've only got one neck to choke. Okay? So say I'm running Oracle Enterprise Linux, Oracle Database, Oracle WebLogic on an Oracle server. Okay? All of a sudden, I'm the sysadmin, clackety, clackety, clacky. The system goes down, it goes bang, it goes belly up. I, walking out the door on Friday evening at 6 o'clock, I ring Oracle and say, I have a P1, my production system is down. Sort it out, thank you. Bye. the support rep on the other end can turn around and go, scratch his head, goes, that looks like a Microsoft issue to me, sir. Thank you very much, call out Microsoft. Microsoft can't turn around to you again and go, no, that's a VMware issue, contact VMware. So in other words, there's one neck to choke, okay, when the customer's gone. It's really, really important for a lot of customers. And as well, it's Oracle. It's not like, it's not some two-bit player like an IT guy with a couple of boxes. He's kind of handy with his hands. This is, let's say, an enterprise world global support operation, 7 by 24 by 365.
But the problem also, we also need to be fast in the support on the other hand. Sometimes we are having problems supporting customers.
Hang on a second. Whoa, before anybody goes any further, let me just quickly now. Now, if somebody raises a support call, okay, and they set it to P1, they will be called back within 30 minutes, okay? And so there's 3 levels of support. So there's number 1, system down P1, okay? Now, your customer will get pushback, okay, if it's not a true P1. Because the P1 has to mean I am stuck on the ground, my production facility is down, I am losing money, okay? Then they will get a call back after 30 minutes. So a lot of customers would say, yeah, but nobody ever called me back, nobody ever called me back. And first of all, the customer didn't escalate it. Second of all, he didn't set it as a P1. Or third, he set the priority too high, and the issue really wasn't the system down. It's not crisis. There's always this sort of to and fro. So P1 would be within 30 minutes. P2 would be, to the best of my knowledge, don't correct me if you're shaking your head there.
In reality, it's not.
Well, it's the same at IBM. I worked in support in IBM myself.
You know,
I don't know
for
what you...
example, I have a problem that because the removal of the pillar from a key account in Oracle.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't sort it out.
And yeah, I have even involved the guys in Axiom who designed the Axiom in the US to talk to the customers. Still, we have no solution. Whereas the SR, it's a big problem anyway.
Yeah.
It's not nothing, but it's not that. But we need to be better in support. That's what I believe.
Well, I mean, I believe so.
It's not
When it comes to and it shouldn't be also it's not always a mission critical.
Are you cold?
Yeah, somebody switched on the AC.
They are cold.
I don't know why the air is coming through. I was like,
Well, I'm hot, but I'm the one who's walking around talking all the time.
that's how it is, you know. In cold they use cold.
Dan,
Yeah.
probably this question is too early, but I'll check with you. Like, it's based on what customers ask or rebut with their questions.
Yeah.
On one of the cases, for example, when you talk about Oracle database install based on third-party x86 or existing, basically on that one,
It's little less.
many of them say we have standardized on IBM, we have standardized on HP, for example.
Yeah.
Even though they have Oracle, they run everything on Oracle, but they say they can't, like, we are standardized. So I'm trying to understand what exactly do you mean when you're saying I'm standardized. First thing. Second thing is, I understand literally, but I understand like how I can counter them and say that, okay, this doesn't make any sense. You can actually replace it without much of an issue. In fact, there are some advantages.
Okay, one thing. Okay, I'm standardized IBM. Okay, fair enough. So when was your last major upgrade with IBM? Oh, we did it about 2 years ago. And did you have IBM Global Services involved? Yeah, we had those guys crawling around our data center for the last 3 months. I said, okay, how much are the guys from IBM Global Services costing you? I said, oh, they were costing me $2,000 to $3,000 per 8-hour day per man. So can you tell us how much, let's say, revenue, how much, let's say, cost did that inflict on you? I said, oh, that ate up half my budget. When you're talking IBM make probably around 58 to 62% of their profits through their global services, right? So if you have a problem, for instance, let's say a support issue, we get global service involved. We'll throw men at it. We're not going to provide your solution. We're going to provide a lot of people on the site to sort out your issue. Another key selling point, Oracle software and best only hardware, and it's easiest to deploy and support. We're coming to the IBM thing. We're doing the competition through the course of the day. Every module's got competition, okay? So hold your horses in the competition, okay? Back to the x86. Oracle's database and apps installed base running third-party and x86. So what are the key selling points here when we're talking about opportunity number 1 here? So the database, the application, and the base, all Oracle, and they're all running on, let's say, HP, they're all running on Dell, okay? Runs best on our hardware. It's designed to run on our hardware, okay? we've got a thing called Oracle Enterprise Manager now that you can pitch to the customer. Okay, so he's got, let's say, one console to manage his database, to manage his middleware, to get down to his storage, for instance. Okay, the Oracle Enterprise Manager now it's not just a database thing; it manages everything. Okay, and let's say for the next iteration, let's say the latest version of Oracle Database is 11. The previous was 10. The previous was 9. The previous was 8, 7. But the latest version is going to be 12. Okay, and that's going to even have even further integration in regards to management functionality. And we're back to the support idea here. It's a single neck to choke. I'm walking out the door at 6 in the evening. Got an issue with my system. It's down. It's not working. Call Oracle. I have a P1. Please sort it out. Okay? You don't get the, oh, it's VMware. Oh, it's DB2, potentially, whatever you've got. It's IBM WebSphere. It's virtualization. It's VMware. We don't have that within the support function. Okay? Opportunity 2. Here's another opportunity you might come across, okay? So this would be, let's say, existing Oracle Solaris, Oracle Linux users on third-party hardware. They're going for operating systems on third-party hardware. That's not good. They should be using our hardware, okay? So we got to, like, let's say the previous message talking about what are the things we bring to the table, the single vendor, okay? When we talk about total cost of ownership, we're talking about, let's say, how much it costs for you to run Oracle hardware over, let's say, a 3 or a 5 year period. Here's a big note for you guys. Our x86 stuff is quite expensive in comparison to HP and Dell, okay? Which makes it therefore much, much more difficult to sell. So it's not a bare metal box for box sell, okay? Because you will not win those deals. Because if I just want an x86, I don't care about the database, don't care about this, I don't care about that. It's a tough one. You got to put the phone down and say, right, that one's a lost opportunity. Because our hardware is a bit more expensive. What you have to talk about is the total cost of ownership of running Oracle on Oracle virtualization on Sun x86 systems versus VMware. How much does your VMware license cost you? Do you not realize that our stuff is free? Our virtualization is free. Okay? Over 3 years. Oh, you're using IBM. Oh, you've got somebody from IBM Global Services sitting there for the next 4 months to implement your solution, to put it together for you. Okay? So these are the conversations. When you come up against IBM, when it's HP, oh, HP, well, so you bought VMware with HP on the HP special deal, and you were told your support prices were going to be 50K, and then all of a sudden, the third-party vendor who HP doesn't work with now has decided we're going to double your support, we're going to double your licensing costs for VMware from 50 to 100,000 at the drop of a hat.
Plus we don't support our product on VMware.
One other thing, great point. We do not support Oracle Database, Oracle WebLogic, Oracle Product, Oracle Software on VMware.
The customer need to confirm that it's happening on a normal machine. If it's happened on a normal physical machine,
yes,
then we will support it.
So basically, if we have issues and you're using VMware and you ring Oracle support but database is not running, what are you running it on? VMware. Well, sorry, you're going to have to reproduce the problem on a system which is not virtualized. Thank you very much. Goodbye. I mean, it's great flattery for Oracle. I think it's great. It's a great selling point for Oracle. And let's say if you're pitching it, it's just think like this: VMware have turned around and now they're going to support Oracle database issues on VMware. They're actually doing support for us. What praise? What better praise could you get from your competitor? Okay, so VMware have turned around and said, if you have an issue with Oracle applications on VMware, we will support you. So call us for support. Okay. So here we are. Oracle Virtual Machine and Op Center, okay? Op Center would be, let's say, the nerve center for our virtualization, at no extra support for the extra support cost, okay? Oracle Solaris Cluster supports on Oracle Sun x86 systems only. And for instance, if you want to use clustering, if you want to use high availability, if you need business continuity within this framework, clustering comes with Linux at no extra charge. a few more to go through before we get to the.
Solaris cluster is supported only for x86 and not for Spark.
Can you
mentioned
go
there
back
are
to
the
previous
previous
slide?
Now the Solaris clustering is.
What exactly is that product? I've not heard about it much.
Solaris cluster, yeah. No, we've got this in Spark too.
I'm sorry?
We have it with Spark also.
Is it like use of
Spark
machine?
is a euphemism for Unix Solaris. Is that the question?
No. What does that product do exactly?
What is
Use
Oracle
for
Solaris cluster?
do? What does it do?
Okay, Oracle Solaris cluster. Right. You guys have had, you know what high availability is, right?
Yeah.
I think we're out of luck on the other. It doesn't matter. Right, so you've got two machines, A and B, okay? Machine A falls, B continues on, okay? In the middle, you've got a thing called clusterware, right? Okay, because that's two machines, okay? In the middle, you've got clusterware, and the clusterware basically manages the load. So if machine B goes down, it'll say, okay, it'll redirect everything to machine A.
Correct.
Yeah, for
It's
instance.
done with the OS.
It's like, it's exactly. So if we're talking about real application cluster for the database, this is for the OS level, okay, for high availability. You see, when part of we talk about the thesis, and part of when Oracle took over Sun, for instance, Sun had been not making too much money, so they had not been investing in R&D. So you had, let's say, Solaris version 10, which was the latest Sun operating system, out there for about 7 years without any major revisions. Okay, so Oracle took Sun over and basically pumped probably about $3.5 billion in R&D. So they've, let's say, improved and added a lot of feature to Solaris. So for instance, the cluster here, we used to use a third-party vendor called Veritas. Okay, the Veritas are a semantic product, and as far as I know, Semantic are now owned by Cisco. So we kind of remember, why would we use a third-party product to manage our, let's say, internal, let's say, high availability and things like this, when we have the expertise here? And also, as well, with Solaris 10, they had a thing called Solstice Disk Suite, which was the thing that provided the cluster, the high availability for the operating system. And Solstice Disk Suite is basically this, but with some money pumped into it and extra R&D.
Now I have a question.
Mhm.
Now, in a typical IT environment, if they're using this, let's say they're running an x86 box, they have Oracle VM installed on it.
Yeah.
Within the Oracle VM, they have Linux operating system and they have Solaris operating system.
Sorry, when that situation by me again, go on.
We have an x86 box.
Yeah.
We have Oracle VM installed on it.
Oracle VM install, yeah, x86, yeah, gotcha.
On top of that, there is Linux operating system running for one of the applications.
So, for instance, Oracle Enterprise Linux, yeah.
Yeah, and then they have Solaris deployed for one of the databases.
Yeah.
And you're telling me we have a different cluster software for x86 for Linux operating system, and we have a different cluster software for Solaris operating system.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of complexity.
Can I say?
It depends on the complexity of it. I mean, it depends. How are you going to fail over within your virtualized system, right? I mean, you're kind of complicating things here insofar as when you use the base hypervisor, there's about 3 or 4 different options you can use, okay, for the clusterware. So you're kind of complicating things there. You're saying we've got one machine with virtualization on, right?
Virtualization. Virtualization has two
So what do you-
containers or two OSs running inside
Yeah.
that. One is Linux, one is Solaris.
Yeah.
And you're telling me there is a different technology for the Linux and there's a different technology for Solaris.
Oh, for sure, yeah, of course. It's a Unix-based thing. Solaris, Linux is x86. Big difference. Yeah, for sure.
But that complexity will exist in all kind of
Yeah.
environments.
That's not just us.
See a solution,
The Oracle
anybody
virtual
else can
machine
provide
already
it.
it is high
Nobody
available.
can provide
That's
it.
you don't need to have a Sun cluster
Yeah.
implemented on top
That's
of
not
it.
a new. I mean,
Can I-
Oracle VM, it's high available itself.
So how?
So you will not implement super cluster.
So we
on
talk
the
about
cluster.
on Solaris cluster. So it's like they are using any? They are not using any kind of third-party solutions for high availability at present.
no, they're not using. I mean, well, what could they be using? They could be using Tivoli. They could be using Veritas. There's a myriad. HP OpenView, BMC Patrol. There's a myriad of, let's say, products out there that they could be using. So, but you've always got to remember that as they use all these different products, it adds a level of complexity to them. What we're offering the customer is a level of simplicity. Okay, that's the thing where you've got to, let's say, focus on, is that the complexity that, let's say, having a myriad of different application providers, and this is just to manage your hardware. This is before we start talking about databases, talking about middleware, talking about CRM systems, we talking about enterprise content management systems, we start talking about Oracle Financials, SAP, e-commerce systems, whatever the customer is providing the service for their customer. That's even before we start talking about Cisco. Okay, it's before we go into networking. Yeah. So Oracle Sun's goal is to provide simplicity and one stack and one solution for your customers. This is kind of the message that really we're trying to get across here. When you're having these conversations, who are using your networking? Oh, right, okay, so you got a network switch out, so we'll talk about the networking product. We're going to talk about the Zygo product, or the Zigo, depending on where you're from. You know, America, it's Zigo. Here it's Zygo. So opportunity number three. What are we going to target? Oracle's current install base. So what are we looking at? A previous generation refresh. Remember, we're talking about the 5-year life cycle. Some companies do 6, some companies do 4, some companies do 3. Okay? Eliminate the need for additional system management training. I am a Solaris admin. I've got Solaris 10. Okay, so why don't we look for, let's say, Solaris x86? We've now got Solaris 11. Customer doesn't need any upskilling in that. He's familiar with the systems. Okay? So let's say leveraged our existing install base. Leverage the existing knowledge that these people have when you're having your conversations. Opportunity number 4, we've got existing Red Hat Linux or VM users. Improved capabilities. Our, let's say, Linux on our virtual machine, OVM, version 3 has come out, which is very, very feature rich, and it is coming very close to competing to VMware's flagship products from functionality and things. Okay? And it's free. You just pay for the support.
So if a customer is already using VMware, for example,
Yeah.
we have a lot of cases where a customer is already using VMware. How would you say that we can
if the customer, sorry.
already using VMware?
Yeah.
Okay. So now asking them to replace is a different thing. Asking them to use OVM in some environment is a different thing. What kind of approach do you take?
The first question you say is, how much is your license fees costing you for VMware for your 50 VMs? It's all about the money. How much can you save over a year? How much can you save 3, 5 years? 5 years, let's say, I don't know, there are some figures, we'll bring them up later. But if you're paying, let's say, it's not beyond a possibility, his VMware licenses for a medium business is costing them $80,000 to $100,000 a year. If you can reduce that down to the price of a support call, to the price of support with OVM for free over 5 years, you're paying $400,000 over 5 years versus maybe $30,000, $36,000 for OVM. That's the kind of savings. Now there are calculators for, let's say, if the customer's got VMware, we have them. So basically you put in the amount of VMware machines, and you put in the amount, let's say, versus OVM, and it'll tabulate those savings for you. But with VMware, also the other things when we're talking, let's say, from VMware, oh, okay, who's VMware owned by? Oh, they're owned by Cisco. Right. So, now Cisco have only started producing hardware, as in servers, right? So it's quite likely they're not going to be on Cisco and x86. So you turn around and say, oh, so you're on a HP server. What operating system is VMware? Oh, sitting on Windows. So you've already got 3 vendors if you've got issues to go to, whereas you only got 1 with us. So there's 2 plays for you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That 75% performance is actually a tested performance, or we just...
Yeah, we do have a link. Now, these are old slides, about 1.5 years old, right?
Right.
So what I will do, let's say, when these slides are done, they had ran some benchmark testing, and it came out that Oracle was 75% faster. Now, I will send you the links to those benchmarks, okay? Because these are about 1.5 years old.
This is actually very true. You know, we had a lot of customers who
Yeah.
moved in North America from Red Hat Linux to Oracle Linux because it was observed that the kernels of earlier Oracle never merged the kernels, but once they merged the kernels, the customers started telling Oracle, that wow, we are having improved performance
Yeah.
of Oracle database running on Oracle Linux, and the best part about it is that you do not have to reinstall Red Hat Linux
Yes.
to install Oracle Linux.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just run a small program. It is binary compatible.
Yes.
The logos will change.
You-
Automatically
listen.
Red Hat will become Oracle, and it's like when you're running up your system in production, you can do it.
Yes. When you're talking to Red Hat Linux customers, okay, I mean, the first thing you say is, well, Oracle Enterprise Linux is for all intents and purposes Linux. It's binary compatible. We base it on the same kernel. Like Alex said, you just run a quick executable, boom, and then you've got the beauty of your database is running on, you've got a vastly improved performance because the way it's engineered of your database running on Linux.
It is customized with the database itself.
So what else are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the best total cost of ownership. Remember we were talking about up to 50% lower over 3 years than HP or IBM. Now, I'd say if you were talking with somebody who had global services in doing some consultancy, you could up that figure from 50% to 75%. So we're going to be the next slide deck, which I'm trying to get in, hopefully, before 11:30. I want to just do the competition slide deck, and it's 10:52 now. Let's break in. Let me just finish these. Okay. So what's your primary x86 opportunities? Your sweet spot. Windows or VMware servers. Sorry, excuse me. What's to avoid? What's kind of difficult? What's less attractive? What's when you make the phone call, you make the primary use as Windows or VM servers. They've no Oracle software installed. They're using Windows. They're using MS SQL on Windows. They're using DB2 on Windows with WebSphere. Okay? Oh, so that's the idea. Be familiar with the competition's applications even. Okay? Because that means it's very, very quickly, well, this guy doesn't even have any Oracle products. It's all installed. Am I wasting my time and should I move on? Okay? We do certify our products on both. Okay? Obviously we have to because they're such big players in the market. But those are the competitions where you have to be cute. So you hear things like WebSphere, you hear things like VMware, you hear things like DB2, you hear things like Microsoft MS SQL, which is Windows flagship database is Microsoft MS SQL. So you hear these sort of things, you kind of shy away from it. Okay? Customers know Oracle software installed and doesn't want any. The intended hardware for use is not for enterprise computing, so they don't need the hardware for something that they're running their business with. And when the customer don't care, price lowest. If that's the customer's bottom line, if he does not want to listen to total cost of ownership, if he doesn't care, he just wants the lowest price, he doesn't care. All he's in charge of is servers, hardware. I don't care. This is my budget. If I can get those servers from HP at such and such a price, then I can get that rack cabinet. That's all he's interested
I
in.
have a customer who wants $500 discount.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, it's sometimes these conversations get a bit ridiculous. Yeah, 500. It's like hang on. Yeah.
I just need those 500. Can you give it to me?
I mean, but some people just like having a discount for discount's sake.
Just have it, yeah.
They have to have some sort of a discount.
Don't
Yeah.
feel like they were
One quick question for you.
screwed.
We were talking about virtualization previously. VirtualBox, have you heard of that? Sun used to have VirtualBox.
We have it. I'm going to show it to you.
Okay.
So, like I was saying, for that's the reason for this hardware course is that we have so much to cover that I have to touch on virtualization because it's becoming so important. So have we all seen virtualization into reality?
No.
You've never seen it.
Once or twice. Maybe.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a virtual machine. I'm going to start an operating system. I'm going to start a database. So just so you get the idea of what it means and how it works, okay? But let's say you got to manage the objections. Some people's objections are going to be, I got burnt by Oracle way back when. Oracle never doesn't seem to have have a, let's say, a roadmap where they're going. You know, they bought Sun. Was it just, why did they do it? These are some of the objections you're going to come across. Oracle's not committed to x86. Okay? No. Oracle is part of our engineered system. Okay, we are. 30,000 servers in our organization across the globe run our x86 hardware.
Why would I don't understand why competition might use this.
So, no, it's not the competition, it's what your customer will say to you.
Customer.
Because sometimes the customer, because maybe they've been listening to what IBM and HP have been telling them. Okay? I mean, it's not as if, I mean, we do it too. Like IBM, for competition purposes, will turn around and say, Oracle hardware, they don't know where they're going, they have no clear message, and they don't use it themselves. But our x86, let's say for our Exalogic or Exadata, for our big data appliance machines, that's all our proprietary hardware. It's all our own stuff. So,
Except the Intel chips.
yes, exactly. So Oracle's own development and IT environment, 24/7/365, all across the globe. Oracle's x86 are expensive. Right, but hang on. When we're talking about the total cost of ownership over 3 years, 25 to 50% cheaper than a similar HP and IBM solution. And this has been verified by third party. Okay? Remember, when the discussion with IBM is like, all right, you got IBM in there. All right, have you got IBM Global Services? So you've got the consultants out. The consultants cost netting from $2,000 to $3,000 a day per man per 8-hour day. So IBM makes their money by their global services. Don't get me wrong, one of Oracle's biggest partners is IBM. Okay? Okay, I think they're like platinum partner. They sell $2 billion worth of database licenses a year. So they are important. But for the conversations you're going to have, they're not so important at the moment. Okay, so what else are we going to hear? Sun's x86 is proprietary, which means it's just our stuff. No, all x86 systems are certified to run Windows, Red Hat Linux, whatever flavor of Linux, and VMware. Okay, they're all certified. Now the thing about the Linux, SUSE Linux, and the flavors of Linux, there might be a version of Linux that is not certified. Take that up with your pre-sales. If you have an objection, no, you have not certified that. Get your pre-sales person to escalate that. If there is a version of Linux that according to your customer, is not supported, that's a pre-sales escalation for you.
Can I ask you regarding
Sure.
support?
Yep.
So about when it comes to Solaris, okay. So I had a situation where a partner said that they are going to charge customers for Solaris support.
The partner is, yeah, okay.
So how is it different from the IBM Global Consult?
I don't understand what you're saying.
He's trying to mean that, when we do the 10% thing,
12, yeah.
no, 10. So
In
we
the
go
field
to
of
the
partners.
FTP
Oh, it's 10, okay.
10%. We quote to the distributor where then the
Yeah.
partner can even quote 20%
Mhm.
support.
Mhm.
But sometimes they try to keep it close. But we have seen quotes which go out to customers wherein they charge for OS installation services,
Yes.
OS support services, OS this thing. So the whole pitch, what you said to us, does not work. I mean, it's
When
so-
you're dealing with partners, you mean it's difficult, yeah?
Yes, and they're platinum partners. Some of them are platinum partners, gold partners.
I'll read this email from one of the partners. Please may I ask if you have made provisions for the cost of Solaris system admin work and Oracle DBA work, because these will not be free services and there is a charge applicable.
Yeah, you see, this is where it gets difficult.
Gray areas.
And this is where I don't really have an answer for you guys, unfortunately, because, okay, let's say you've a greenfield site and you've got somebody installing Solaris, okay? And he's installing with an Oracle database. There needs to be some expertise in there to go out and do that if the customer does not have it himself.
Yes, that's the most
So-
of the cases in our
Yeah, I mean, that's where I don't have an answer. That's a grey area. I mean, what you really have got to do is when you're having the discussion with the customer from the very start, okay? So this is where the intelligence when you're having discussions with your customers is very important, because first and foremost, you're going to know that this customer needs the database consultancy and needs the operating system consultancy. Because for instance, to install Solaris on a Unix machine or on an x86 machine is quite straightforward. You can follow the instructions. It's literally, if you've got your networking parameters correct, if you've got your user, you just like boom, 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 off it goes, okay, if you've got the networking parameters correct. And installing the database is fairly straightforward as well. But configuring both of them and configuring them to do what you want to do is a different story. So when you're having your initial conversation with your customer, my suggestion for you guys on this one is that try and ascertain and build and factor the costs of those in so that nobody has any surprises, as what seems to be from this email you've just had. So from the get-go, from the start, have the conversations so nobody's surprised when 3 weeks into a deal you turn around and say, well, we're going to charge you an extra 20K for consultancy here because you don't have the on in-house expertise.
Or probably we need
That's
to
the way I'd address that.
realign and teach our partners how to do that, because
Yeah,
a lot of them are
because
misusing the
see
trust.
the problem we have at present in most of the cases that most of these partners are either software partners or the hardware partners.
Okay.
Okay?
No, not overall partners.
Overall partners, like we don't have money once you can move expert on both.
Yeah.
Both that way. So now these guys, when they go into these conversations, that's where we have problems, because one, Solaris is not that the expertise for Solaris is not much in our
Yeah.
So we have to depend on partners to run all those things.
For sure.
Now when a partner comes in the picture, he charges his things. So
But he shows
The
his
story-
at cost of Oracle. That's the worst part. He doesn't show. See, partners want to make commissions on implementing Oracle.
Well, that's the juggling act you got to do between partners. I mean, it's I don't have an answer for you guys. So.
You're just telling the scenarios.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to identify, because if we go gung ho about the support aspect, and then suddenly this dart comes from nowhere.
Yeah.
Then you're caught like just
Right.
in
And neither can we
unaware.
cut out the partners because they are actually
So
selling.
we are trying to find out what else can be a point in our conversation.
I just as simple as this. Maybe when you're having the conversations with the customer, you don't have to say it in so many words, but you turn around and say, well, you do realize that there's going to be some extra consultancy fees on this that might be imposed upon you by the partner. Yada, yada, yada. Whatever way you want to say that in the region you're working in, feel free, but it's a bit of a political thing with a partner, you know? Okay, just one other thing. Sorry, guys, I don't know. It is, you know, it's a tough one.
Can you iterate? Talk about the last point, third-party
Yeah.
system management tools which utilize Oracle Industry XCD interface. That's like, can you be real specific?
Some people turn around and say, hang on for a second, BMC Patrol doesn't work. IBM Tivoli doesn't work. Other, let's say, third-party, let's say, management utilities do not work on our x86, which is completely false.
Yeah.
Okay? That's
So
it.
you mean to say they can actually
But I have-
be used to run our
Yeah.
products?
Yeah.
Well, I have an answer for you in case of competing against IBM
Yeah.
for this one.
We're going to go into, we're doing competition next, so don't worry about it.
No worries.
So managing the sales objections. Oracle Linux is proprietary. So this is, so some people might turn around, oh, well, Oracle are going to lock us into Linux. It's not, it's the open source kernel. When that kernel gets updated by Red Hat, we update it too, okay? Or it's completely binary compatible with Red Hat Linux. So if people try and tell you that Oracle Linux is not proprietary, it is, and it is completely binary. Like you were saying, you run an executable, off you go. There's no huge issues. Plus remember, in some respects, they might get a very, very big increase in database performance, okay?
Will you share these slides with us?
Oh, you're going to get them, yeah. Oracle VM is proprietary. No, it's not. It's based on the Zen open source kernel, okay? Right? Zen is, I think it could be a Xerox product that was open sourced a few years ago. Yeah, it's a type of Linux kernel. So we're basing it on Zen. And Zen have their own virtualization too, which is open source. So we're actually using open source products. Oracle can manage, so some people turn around and try and say, oh, we can't migrate our existing, let's say, estate on VMware to Oracle. Untrue. I have slide decks in here which will show you the procedure to migrate your current VMware estate to Oracle VM. Okay, there's a few things, a few steps to go through. You have to change the extension, the extension names in some files, but it is not a horrendous or as some people like to say, a forklift changeover. You don't have to get a forklift truck in to move things around. It's literally, it's a few command line changes. Okay, Oracle is not robust as VMware.
That's false.
Absolutely false. Absolutely false.
We can bring
Especially,
containers and VMware.
especially our Oracle, especially our most recent version of our virtualization software. It can handle far more concurrent virtualized machines than VMware can, purely by the way it's been designed. And we're talking about virtualization on our Unix machines. We absolutely blow VMware out of the water. Okay.
Does VMware have manageability tools like we have manageability tools for Oracle VM?
Yeah, there's a V center or
So
what,
just
something,
like
there's
we
some
have
sort of a
VMware Enterprise Manager.
similar. Yeah. What's it called?
Workstation. VMware
Well,
workstation.
I actually have VMware Workstation on my machine.
Wow.
There's a few. Yeah, it's a freeware. It's a client-based thing. We don't pay license for it. So
So even VMware has a manageability tool.
yes,
And it's
they
free.
would generally. They do. They all do.
And it's free.
Yes. It comes with the license. So depending, I mean, if you're paying 50,000 a year for 15 VM boxes running concurrently on your machine, you would expect to have a management tool for it, and you would expect not to have to pay any extra for it. But when you're having your conversations with IBM, which we're going to come to competition next. IBM, for instance, let's say when they're charging for, let's say you wanted, a highly available system on DB2 with virtualization and a management pack, and you wanted a backup utility for it. So you'd, let's say, get Tivoli from IBM. You would get, let's say, AIX from IBM. You'd use IBM's virtualization, which is called LPARS, okay? For Tivoli, you'd pay a fee. For the LPARS, you'd pay a fee, okay? For the AIX, you're gonna pay a fee, right? So for each component is licensable from IBM. When you're talking about Oracle, there's one fee for that, okay?
Buffet model versus the a la carte.
So, and it's the 12% a year. You pay for the installation hardware, that comes bundled with it. You pay 12% support from there on in. IBM, for those three components, for instance, it's a fee. Okay, so you were asking me about competitiveness against IBM. There's a good analogy for you.